So this video is scheduled to be released on Valentine's Day, although I'm currently in China right now. So Chinese people actually do not celebrate the Western Valentine's Day. So the Chinese Valentine's Day is actually celebrated every summer. It's called Qixi. But I'll save that topic for other videos. The reason why I'm releasing this video today is that I want to talk about the other side of interracial dating. Obviously, I've talked a lot about snow bunnies, right? And also I've talked very extensively about the most common interracial pairing, which is a white man and Asian woman. And let's look at the other side of the spectrum. Let's talk about the Asian man and the white woman couples. And I do think that I would say the vast majority of the time, if you're looking into the long term, right, how many of these couples are still together after 10, 20, 30 years? Probably the divorce or separation rate, I would say it's 70 to 80%. The vast majority of the time it cannot work. And I want to share the struggles of an Asian man, if you want to enter the interracial dating market, right? And I think oftentimes these points are overlooked. They're not often talked about. For example, let's just look at China, where I'm standing right now. So it's not the perfect weather, right? It's extremely cold. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit shaky. I have said many times in my previous videos before, right? There are a lot of struggles for Chinese women as well. Imagine, right, you as a Chinese woman, right? You're looking for your future husband. You're looking for your dream man, right? Let's say, you just have these three criteria, only just these three. You want your man to not smoke, you want your man to not drink, and you want your man to not gamble. Just no smoking, no drinking, no gambling. Yes, I do meet all three of these requirements, but I left China over 20 years ago. Everything is completely different now. And yeah, if you want a Chinese man that does not smoke, that does not drink, that does not gamble, that virtually doesn't exist. You're probably looking at, I would say, anywhere between 0.1 to maybe 0.5% of the Chinese male population. It's a massive struggle, right? Even for me, it drives me nuts, because everywhere you go in China, you go to the restaurant or you go to a KTV, everywhere you go, the Chinese men, they're just smoking everywhere. And so many Chinese women, they have copied these Chinese men. It's very, very normal if you travel to China to see a young Chinese woman smoke in the public. Even just 10, 15 years ago, this used to be non-existent. But now Chinese women, they're picking up the same habit. So the problem is that, if you're out with 6, 7, 8 other friends, if they're all sitting around the dinner table, if they're all smokers, and if you're the only person that doesn't smoke, the smell will completely destroy you. Every time I go to these restaurants, right, with my Chinese family, when all the men are smoking, my eyes get extremely watery. I start coughing up like it's crazy. I just feel extremely, extremely sick, to the point I just want to throw up all the time. Let's talk about drinking, right? There's a reason why I became 100% completely sober over 8 years ago. Because usually what happens, I find the vast majority of the time, when people get really, really drunk, see, there's a reason why, right? You can go ahead and smoke 3 packs of cigarettes and you can go to work. Let's say if you're a pilot, you can fly a plane, you can drive a bus, no problem, right? But there's a reason why after you've had a couple glasses of beers, you're legally not allowed to drive your car. In fact, the Chinese laws are even more strict versus Western laws. So China has 0 alcohol tolerance when it comes to drinking and driving. China is very, very strict on this. Because, yeah, a lot of people, when they get drunk, they get absolutely retarded. And it drives me insane. Sometimes I go out with my family, right? Let's say you have a reservation at a restaurant, right? Let's say you start eating at 5 o'clock, right? Usually by 5:30, 5:45, at the latest, everybody's finished. The problem is that when these people start drinking, they get so freaking annoying. And I feel so terrible for these Chinese waiters, because most of them do work 12-hour shifts, right? And sometimes these people, after they get drunk, they do not leave. So sometimes, one guy has to stay behind for 13, 14, 15, or even 16 hours. So a lot of times, let's say the restaurant's closed at 9 o'clock, even though you have been there at 5, even though you finish eating at 5:45, the people who get drunk, they're always like, bruh, what? I love you, man. Listen, dude, I freaking love you, bro. I love you, man. You're like my bro. No, it's always like that. Like, I'm serious. This applies to anybody that gets drunk, right? And it drives me insane because, sometimes you go out, you got other stuff you want to do, right? And oftentimes, every time I go out for dinner, I'm forced to stay there until, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, sometimes past midnight. And it's just absolutely terrible. And that's the best case scenario for when people get drunk, right? A lot of times when these people get drunk, right? A lot of these Chinese men, they turn extremely violent. They start to fights with their steel brothers, with their best friends, with their family families for no reason, and oftentimes have to separate these men. It's absolutely terrible. They start cursing each other, and punches are being thrown around. You have to pull them apart, and you just look at what's happening in the West, right? I would say 99% of the time, if there's a rape or sexual assault, there's usually alcohol or illegal drugs involved, right? Nothing good ever comes out of this, right? And don't even get me started on gambling. You have to have virtually zero IQ to get addicted to gambling, because you're just throwing your money away. A lot of people think, Asian men, they're extremely hardworking. You think it's a very, very conservative culture, but the reality is that if you look at the divorce rates in Japan, in South Korea, in China, right, it's skyrocketing, and both men and women have to take responsibility. And unfortunately, think about it as a Chinese woman. That's why you have this trend of so many Chinese women, they're going their own way as well. Yeah, over 99% of the Chinese men, they either have a smoking issue, or they have a gambling issue, or they have a drinking issue. And I will say probably at least 30 to 40% of Chinese men, right, they check all three of these criteria. Now imagine if you're as a Western woman, right, you want to become some rich Chinese guy's snow bunny, right? But this is what you have to put up with every single day, because if you want a Chinese man that does not smoke, that does not drink, that does not gamble, that virtually doesn't exist. So this is why I do believe that this is a huge contributing factor to why 70 to 80% of the time, right, the interracial relationship involves an Asian man and a white woman. Well, in the examples I'm giving, I'm more talking about more specifically a Chinese man and a Western woman. Yeah, I think 70 to 80% of the time that marriage is guaranteed to fail. Now, there's one other extremely important factor not too many people talk about, right? And I really want to discuss this point. This point will trigger a lot of people, right? The reason why so many interracial marriages and relationships fail is because oftentimes, right, when these people, usually it's the men who are pursuing the female partner, right? They're pursuing them solely based on their ethnic background. They're not pursuing them because of the contents of their character. Oftentimes, it's not because of the fact that women, they hold the traditional values, that they're extremely feminine, that they're really attracted to them. A lot of times, it's some kind of a weird fetish. If you're asking me personally, my personal preference, I would say that I still prefer to date an Asian woman. Well, I would say the number one reason is that we gotta talk about, the elephant in the room, right? I would say at least 50% of Western women, they either fall into the category of obese or morbidly obese. Let's face it, especially in America, Canada is not doing so much better. That's a massive problem. Especially, if you look at some of these white women, some of these women, let's say when they're between 18 to 25, yes, they're extremely fit, they're extremely athletic, they're very beautiful, right? Many of these are A's and 9s and 10s. However, even the A's and 9s and 10s, when they get to the age, I would say roughly between 28 to 32 years old, I would say roughly the average is 30. Even when these white women don't have kids, right, they will start to get really fat. But for the vast majority of the Asian women, if you look at a picture of these Asian women from, let's say when they're 18 or 20 or 22, versus if you look at them now, let's say 20 years later, they're 40 years old, and let's say they've already had 2 or 3 kids. Obviously, you can tell, they've aged in the past, 15, 20, 25 years. But other than, a little bit of wrinkles on their face, their body shape, it's 80 to 90% of the time, it's still the same. Oftentimes, the reason why so many white men enter these interracial marriages or relationships, right, usually it's either an Asian woman or a Hispanic woman, right? White men, vast majority of the time, they usually try to avoid Middle Eastern, like Muslim women or black women or Indian women. Yes, they do happen. It's extremely rare. So usually it's one of the two, right? I have to be brutally honest. It's because of ever since the trend of interracial dating started, some white women, they have begun to choose men of other ethnicities. And I can tell you guys this: the absolute worst nightmare for white men is to see a black man with his arms around another white woman. Is to see a black man with a snow bunny. And a lot of white men, they're really weird about this, right? And I'm not talking about all of them. So am I saying that once a white girl has been with a black guy, she has no chance at getting married or dating a white guy ever? I'm not saying that she doesn't have the chance, but the vast majority of men, they will basically relegate these women to basically damaged goods, that you'll never have sex with them, you'll never ever talk to them again. And it's not even about dating or getting getting married, right? If they know that a white girl, once she has hooked up with a black guy, that's why there's a saying. They say that once you go black, you're a single mom. Or they say that, once you go black, you never go back. Because, yeah, if a white woman, oftentimes, if she does choose to date a black guy, or even just, have a one-night stand, have one hookup with a black guy, because after that, right, 80 to 90% of white men, they will never, ever look at that white girl ever again. White men are extremely, extremely weird about this. And it doesn't matter what you say, right? So if you look at all the interracial pairings, right, white men are the most likely to enter interracial relationship or marriage. I'm talking about worldwide. Look at the number of passport bros, right? But look at the white men who are going to China, going to Korea, going to Japan, going to Philippines, going to Thailand, going to Cambodia, going to Vietnam, going to places like Mexico, going to Costa Rica, going to Honduras, going to South America, going to Brazil, Colombia. The vast majorities of passport bros, they're white men. So oftentimes these white men who are choosing to enter these interracial marriages or relationships is a form of revenge, or is to take out their rage on black men, because they're extremely angry, they're extremely pissed off at these black men who are dating white women. And see, the white men are extremely weird. It's okay for them to take one of your girl, right? If a white guy sees another white guy that's with an Asian girl, he's gonna say, oh, good for you. I hope these tiny little Asian women, I hope they're getting stretched out in the bedroom. I hope they're absolutely screaming in the bedroom while they're pleasing these white men. White men are extremely hypocritical. However, if it's the other way around, right, if a white guy sees an Asian guy that's with a snow bunny, I don't think white man really cares if that snow bunny is like really, really ugly. I'm talking about one of those cafeteria lunch ladies. I'm sorry to say, vast majority of those cafeteria lunch ladies, they look like they have survived the Holodomor and the Warsaw Uprising. I'm talking about Rosie O'Donnell ugly, like mad ugly. So the vast majority of the time they don't care. But however, right, let's say, just for example, let's say who do I think is a white baddie, right? Let's say Tate McRae, right? If you don't know who is Tate McRae, look up Tate McRae, Canadian singer, very, very talented. She's I believe best friends with Olivia Rodrigo. Olivia Rodrigo is definitely a baddie too. So Olivia, she's white and Asian mixed, right? So let's say if Tate McRae was my girlfriend, let's say if I showed her, let's say, oh look, I found myself a brand new snow bunny, and here's Tate McRae. Or if we're walking out in the public, I can guarantee you this, right? At least 50% of the audience of this channel, they would turn on me, and at least I would say anywhere between 5 to 10% of my audience, they will immediately unsubscribe from this channel, and they will send some nasty comments. I'm talking about comments, for example, let's say, oh, you ugly small eye micro penis, you're retarded low IQ monkey, like how dare you, like stay away from white women. And they'll say, oh, I'm gonna fund you, I will murder you, oh, you absolute piece of I'm just telling you guys, this is a brutal reality, right? I believe this is a major contributing factor to why, interracial pairing that's most likely to end up in divorce is black man and white woman. Because, yeah, white men, they're extremely weird about this stuff. And every time they see a black guy with a white girl, they absolutely lose their mind. However, it's the same white men who are complaining. They say, oh, there's a white genocide. We need to stop race mixing, stop immigration. It's these white men who keep saying that, oh, men should go their own way. Don't get married. Don't have children. Oh, if you choose to get married, go to Asia, go to Latin America, find the Asian girl, find the Hispanic girl. They're the ones who choose the race mix. But I'm sorry to say, but the reality is that over 90% of the passport bros are Western men looking for a non-white woman. So I mean, this is not an easy topic, right? If you're a Western woman, if you're genuinely interested in Asian men and Asian culture, you want to move to a different part of the world. Let's see if you go to China. Well, I've just said it, right? Probably 99.5% of Chinese men, they either smoke, drink, or gamble all the time. 30 to 40%, they check all three of these, right? They have a severe gambling addiction, they have a severe smoking addiction, and they have a severe alcohol addiction. So that is going to be a massive problem. And never mind these three, just the pressure from society in general, especially from white men, for let's say the Asian man, the white woman couple, right? So they're going to fear severe discrimination from, I would say not all, obviously. There are some people who are very open-minded, they don't mind, they support this kind of marriage. They say it's 2025, you should be able to date and love whoever you want. But for at least, the other 50% of white men, you will face a severe discrimination from them, and they will absolutely hate you, they will despise you, they will look down on you for entering a interracial marriage or a relationship. And a lot of them, obviously, they won't admit it, because we live in an extremely woke society. We live in the times of cancel culture. They obviously think of it, but they're too afraid to say it, because if they were actually honest about what they're thinking, right, if they actually said that what they really wanted to say right to your face, they're afraid that they could get fired from their job, right, or they could get expelled from their school. There's going to be severe consequences. It's not that racism and discrimination has completely disappeared. It's just that we live in cancel culture, and that too many people are afraid to say that what they really think. So yeah, that's why in interracial marriage is a difficult topic, right? And there's going to be a lot of issues, and a video like this is not really enough to cover all of the points that I really want to cover. And also, it's getting really cold outside. My hands are about to freeze off, so I will come back to this topic in the future. Thank you guys so much for staying till the end, and we'll see you guys next week. Happy Valentine's Day.